All right, welcome back to Safety Blitz. You know the two-time Super Bowl champ, Rodney Harrison, Jack Collinsworth. Rod, let's get into Cam Newton. Cam Newton had a good return. I'm back. He's screaming. He's doing all this stuff. Takes off his helmet the first play. He scores a touchdown. And then he runs into a red-hot Miami Dolphins team, Brian Flores, who you know well, and what happened next?
Just think about it. You're at home chilling on the couch, all right? And NFL defenses are still practicing. They're still meeting. They're still having engagement with the coaches, talking about how you're going to stop certain guys. And when Cam comes off the couch and he starts at quarterback, it's still Cam Newton. But it's a different version of Cam Newton. It's not the young, athletic Cam Newton that we're used to seeing, the MVP Cam Newton. No, it's an older Cam Newton. It's a guy that's still trying to learn the offense. It's a guy that's still so focused on the offense that he really can't even read what's going on defensively. So to me, this never even made sense to me. This never even made sense. He's staring at the receiver. He has to stay away from Javon Holland. This kid is a fantastic safety. And he underthrows it. He makes a beautiful catch. You got to put a little air in that. And once again, Cam, we always talk about the accuracy issues, right? He throws that right to Xavier Howard. I mean, look at this. Perfect coverage. He's locked on this man to man. This is perfect coverage. Why don't you go somewhere else? Because Cam Newton, once he gets stuck on one guy, it's hard for him to survey the field, to go to his second read, to go to his third read. And if Matt Rule, I don't know what he was necessarily thinking, and maybe this was a decision based off of desperation, but at the end of the day, Don't you watch film, Matt Rule? Don't you watch film? Don't you watch the same film that I'm watching and that every other team in the National Football League that didn't give Cam an opportunity? Now, I think he could be a backup quarterback, but as far as a starter in this league, the game has passed him by.
Yeah. I mean, we watched the way that it all unfolded there with New England. So then he comes in, and the first touchdown he scores, like when he pulled off his helmet right away and you knew it was going to be a free 15-yard penalty, to me it was kind of everything we've known about Cam. Is it's look at me, like pointing fingers, like pointing at the back of the jersey, the Superman. Like he just went right back to all that stuff before he had done anything. And that's with every team in the NFL being like, no, we really don't want Cam Newton to be our quarterback. So I think you hit the nail on the head, which is it was desperation. I mean, they were looking for anything at the quarterback position, a little bit of athleticism. Maybe he can complete some passes. But this is somebody who has had multiple surgeries on his throwing shoulder, and you're starting to see what it's doing to his accuracy coming out of that arm. So is it a long-term answer for Carolina? No. Is it a short-term answer for Carolina? No. Is this what I expected to see all along? Yes. Is this what's starting to happen? Yes. Do you see it getting any better for Cam Newton in Carolina, or do you see a pattern starting to develop like we've really seen the last couple of years that he's gotten a chance?
They're not going to win. I mean, they can probably go 8-9, or they're not going to. I don't think they're going to go to the playoffs with Cam playing quarterback. I just don't think that they can do that. Joe Brady hasn't been good. He's the offensive coordinator. You think about Sam Darnold, his failure. You're talking about Cam Newton coming in here, basically the same thing. Between Matt Rule and Joe Brady, those guys are supposed to be offensive gurus. You would think with the talent that they have, of course they don't have Christian McCaffrey, the security blanket, but they still got talent around them, and I just don't understand why this offense has been so inconsistent.
Let's get you to our second Turn the Page Tuesday, which is the Indianapolis Colts. This is another one of those interesting teams where they have an incredible ground game. Carson Wentz has shown some awesome moments. What page do the Colts need to turn in your eye?
It could be a positive turn. It doesn't have to be a negative turn, because to me, we watched them against San Francisco when San Francisco didn't play their best football. The Colts went down there and took care of business. Now everybody's saying that San Francisco is Super Bowl bound. And they went down there and took care of their business. I like what Frank Reich has done with Carson Wentz. I see a completely different Carson Wentz. I see a guy that's controlling the offense, a guy that he's not afraid to make different checks and adjustments. And the biggest thing is throwing the ball down the field, the confidence in which he's throwing the ball down the field. He's spreading the ball around, and he's not turning it over. I think Carson Wentz is playing really, really good ball. And, I think Frank Reich has given him stability. In Philadelphia, he always had to worry about if somebody was looking over his shoulder and the fans and things like that. He came to Indianapolis. Frank Reich cleared his mind. almost push a reset button, and you see a completely different Carson Wentz. I think Frank Wright has been great, and even though they lost this game, they can still hold their heads high, and they know they can compete with anybody in the National Football League, Jack.
That's right. The Colts outplayed them for most of that game. That's just the defending Super Bowl champ. Anytime you can go do that, it's pretty darn good. I mean, their offensive line is really talented, and I don't even think Quentin Nelson's fully healthy yet. When I watch Quentin Nelson play, I'm used to watching him really have some pop, and I don't see that same pop. But this is still one of the best running games that you'll see around the NFL. I mean, that Jonathan Taylor coming out of there is one heck of a running back. You got T.Y. Hilton, Pittman Jr.'s having a good year. Doyle's having a good year, and you look at the rest of that offensive line. Fisher's playing well at left tackle. Smith is playing well at right tackle. You got Hines as well as a little bit of a changeup. This team's going to be around. I think the Colts are going to be one of those hanging teams that I don't know that you want to face when it's cold weather and the ground game becomes even more important. So here's what the playoff picture looks like in the AFC there in that in the hunt category. But when I look at those in the hunt teams, they may be the most talented group, especially with, Baker Mayfield being hurt. If Baker gets healthy, I may put Cleveland ahead of them. But besides that, they're among the best in that in the hunt group. How do you see that AFC playoff picture?
Yeah, first keep that picture up. I want to continue to look at it. In the hunt, the team that would probably scare me the most out of all those teams, it would be the Colts. Because I know they have a solid defense. They got guys that can create turnovers, big guys up front. But also offensively, like we talked about, they can run the ball, they can pound it, they can control the ground game. And I think the more they continue to play, the more they continue to get familiar with one another, then they're going to continue to get better. But you look at those Cincinnati Bengals, boy, that's who I'm looking at, them Cincinnati Bengals. Who wants to play them in the wild card game?
I don't think anybody does, Rod. I don't think anybody does. Even Drew Brees said on the show, he was like, to me, there's two the Bengals are a complete team, and there's two teams at the top of the AFC, and we talked about this in the post-game show over on Peacock after the game. New England and Cincinnati. To me, those are the two most complete teams. They're young teams, young quarterbacks, but they are coming together on the fly. And as you watch Pittsburgh fall apart, as you watch Cleveland get all banged up, specifically at the quarterback position, it just illuminates further how far those teams have come.
And what I love about Cincinnati is this is a team, and I love what I'm seeing because they're starting to come together as a team. They're starting to come together as a team. And when you see them, the celebrations and the dancing and the hugs and no one caring about who gets credit and everybody's happy for everyone's success, that's what I'm talking about. And you see a young quarterback get up there and face the media and talk directly in the camera to the members of the media about his team and how he feels. Just Joe Burrow basically taking control. They know who their leader is, and I love the fact that they're coming together as a team, man. It is really, really good to see a young team coming together.
It is. It's exciting, man. It really is. Okay, let's get to our third one on Turn the Page Tuesday, which is the Los Angeles Rams. So we promised that we'd come back for that other LA team. Both of them having their struggles right now. What's going on with the Rams, in your opinion?
It's the same thing like we just talked about the Chargers. I think Matthew Stafford, think about Matthew Stafford. He played in Detroit where no one, how many games did you watch of Matthew Stafford in Detroit, Jack? None, right?
Probably like 5. I didn't enjoy any of them, yeah.
In a bunch of years, in over a dozen years. But at the end of the day, I think the pressure of playing in Detroit compared to the pressure of playing in LA with the Super Bowl expectations that the Rams have and everything that they've given up. Matthew Stafford is a very smart guy, so he understands what they've given up. They went out and got Odell. They went out and got Von Miller. They went out and traded the world for him. There's a lot of expectations. And look, he's starting to revert back to the Matthew Stafford in Detroit. And I blame a lot of this on Sean McVay. We got to look at him. He has to find a way to toughen up his group and change up some of the things that he's doing because Matthew Stafford doesn't look comfortable. Maybe it's the boot. Maybe it's the play action. Maybe it's something that he needs to change up. But Matthew Stafford does not look like the same player. And I'm looking at Sean McVay because, he handpicked him. He handpicked him. Yeah, I know they lost Robert Woods, and Robert Woods was a very good player. But at the end of the day, come on, man. You got Van Jefferson. You got Odell Beckham. You got to plug those guys in, and you got to be able to keep it moving as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, those are all very good points. And what I sort of find myself going back to is when we were going into that Tennessee game, which was a few weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, that we heard that Stafford was having some back pain, some chronic back pain, and didn't really think much of it at the time. But as I've seen them start to go downward, and as Stafford's play has started to go downward, I can't help but think I'm not sure how healthy he is. And that's one of the things is you look at what he's done these last 3 games, and that's really been since we started hearing about some of the chronic back pain, is that you may think that the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And I think that this was one of those moves where the grass is going to be greener if I can just go Stafford. Well, the problem with that is there could also be issues on the other side of that fence. And when you have a 33-year-old guy who's been getting banged up in Detroit, there may be a few negatives that are going to follow him across the country to LA too. And it sounds like he has some back issues that are starting to seep into the play that we're seeing on the field. And that's not a great sign. That's not a great sign if you're Sean McVay.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? You think there's back issues? Because everybody got back issues. It's an NFL season. It's 17 weeks. And you're talking about Matthew Stafford has back issues. I got back issues getting on a plane going to the West Coast every single week. Like, we all got issues.
I hear you.
If hold on. All I'm saying is this. If you're not ready, okay, if you're not healthy, don't go on a football field. Yep. Okay, because once again, just like Baker Mayfield, all you're doing as a quarterback, you're hurting your team, not going out there and not being, 100% or close to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those injuries, though, specifically at a quarterback position when you have to rotate. If he actually has chronic back issues, you could be looking at not only an issue for the Rams this season, this whole move. Think about what they gave up to go get Matthew Stafford. If he has long-term issues like this, I mean, what would that mean for McVay after this? I mean, they're giving up everything. Then you go bring in all these big personalities. Let's insert Odell Beckham Jr. Let's insert Von Miller. And it starts screwing around with the chemistry you had built in that locker room. Now you don't know who's a leader. You don't know who to listen to. Man, you do this mid-season after the start you had, it's ugly to watch.
And let me say something that no one else is saying. These 2 players that you brought in, they're not the same. They're not the same from when they first came in the league. Von Miller he's got a Hall of Fame first ballot, no question about it. Go Von Miller, I'm a big fan. But at the end of the day, Von Miller is not the same player that we once saw, okay? And that's why he was expendable in Denver. Denver's right there in the hunt. We just saw it. And they let Von Miller go. And there was a reason for that. You look at Odell Beckham. He's super athletic, still can catch one hand, but he's not the same player that he once was. So you go out, you overpay for these older players, and they're not what they used to be. So it'll be interesting to see what happens the next month of the season because the pressure's on McVay and the pressure's on Matthew Stafford. And if they don't get it done this year, man, we could see a new coach in LA possibly.
It's weird
and
because
Odell
has all those. He's got all those lower extremity injuries that have eaten away. Because what he was twitchy, right? He was one of those guys that was just so athletically twitchy and just out there on the Autobahn could just explode by people and go up and get the ball and do amazing things. You start having this many serious lower leg injuries, I don't know that twitch is the same that it once was, and he still wants the ball like he's some young superstar, and he's an old guy who's been hurt a bunch of times. And so, man, I don't know. Let's hit a break. We'll come back for 3rd and short, but the L.A. Rams in some serious turmoil.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.